Hey, thanks for tuning in for another episode of your review channel. Today we're talking about wedding receptions, episode 3, the way I shot the videos inside of a wedding. But before I get into that video, let's like, share, and subscribe. I do appreciate that quite a bit, and let's get into the video right now. Okay guys, let's get into this video. So this episode's all about the reception. So it was a local country club, and so we had a couple different situations here with this specific wedding. A lot of uplighting, and I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing a lot of different uplighting and a lot of different issues with DJs or bands, whatever. And they like to, make the room look cool, and they add all the uplighting, but it kind of messes with your color balancing and the light and the temperature and all that kind of stuff. So you do the best you can in post-production. It's almost impossible to white balance these kind of situations, honestly, because they can change the light colors and things are changing, and they got a lot of motion, what's happening the way I shoot. And so basically what I want to do is I want to teach you how I shoot these receptions. So 99% of all my jobs were either freehand or a monopod. Never set up with a big rig, nothing like that. It was really the idea when you're shooting event videography, especially weddings or bar mitzvahs or parties or whatever, you got to be fluid. You got to be able to move, pivot, and change because people are in front of you, people are moving. This is a fluid situation. This is not like a production that you're controlling. So as it's a fluid situation unfolds, you have to be able to pivot, change, tilt, move, pick up everything. And if you're stuck down with a big rig on a heavy tripod with a big light, whatever, you just can't do that. You can't move fast enough. You just can't you're just gonna miss it. So you'll see in this video an example here, and this is really how I always trained myself to shoot. It was pretty much, years ago as a camcorder, of course, on my shoulder, and we did use a tripod, especially at long church weddings. We did a lot of masses back in the day, and you'd shoot there for like an hour and a half or whatever. So yeah, you have to use a tripod, of course, because you just can't stand there for an hour and a half. You fall. I'm gonna fall asleep. So there are times that you do use tripods, dance recitals, things like that. But when it comes to something like this, that's a fluid in motion that you can control, that's out of your control, that you're dealing with photographers and bands and DJs, and they're kind of running that show. You're kind of in the background, just capturing it. So you got to kind of think outside the box when you're doing these events. So typically my shooting style is I try to get into the front of the entrance, so as close as possible, not in the back. I always try to be close to the action, and you'll see in this example of my footage, I'm pretty much not on top of them, but I'm there with the action. I am part of the shot, but behind the scene, let's call it that, okay? Let's get into this introduction so you can see how I do my introductions for a wedding. And this was a while ago. Again, the audio on the microphones is a basic shotgun microphone, nothing fancy. I never wired the audio. I know everybody does today. I get that. They set up a separate audio track with the DJ. They plug in and you can do that. That's kind of cool. But if you don't blend it correctly, it's too much of one, not enough of another. And I really like the blend of the sound personally, of the live content versus the not staged content, but everyone's into the film mode, so they're always looking for audio tracks, and they're always for me, it's overcomplicating it, honestly. It's a wedding event, it's cool, you know what I mean? I think the speeches, that's important, I get that, you know what I mean? Speeches and things like that, but when it comes to the actual dancing and fun stuff, you don't need it, and don't overlay audio during the first dance. Use the natural sound, use the audience sound. I mean, look at this here. So this is something changing, right? They're throwing things around. So you gotta learn to pivot. You gotta move. You just gotta cap. This is the stuff they want to see. Instead of just focusing straight ahead all the time, you miss a lot of that stuff. So you really just kind of keep your head open, look around. Anticipate what's going to happen. A lot of these, I'm not sure about today, but back in the day, everybody was doing something different and something fun. And you wanted to capture that. And most photography, when they have photographers, they have 2 or 3 photographers, so they can handle all that. But for video, for point and shoot aspect, or for a documentary style video, you want to really make sure that you're really fluid, and that's what makes a big difference here for me. All right, let's get into. So you get the idea behind this, the principle, right? So you get to move, pivot, and change, and this is kind of a fun, wild wedding. You're gonna like this one. So here's the introduction to the bride and groom. Here they come. Again, I use a very simple light on the camera. I'll leave the description of my rig below. The microphones, the lights, the cameras, things like that, so you get an idea of equipment. So if you want to start your own video business, this is what you would need just to get going. I also have a backup camera, backup audio, and backup lights. Always backup, everything. Always have to have backup. So as you can see, they just changed the light again to all purple. But if you're close enough and you have control of your light, you can see the balancing is pretty decent. And then they have the audio track in the background playing, and that's, you know, it doesn't have to be plugged in. It's really about how it actually sounds. So you get a little bit of everything. And by being freehand and by being close or a monopod, you can really get in and get those tight shots without being so far away. The idea is really to capture the emotion of the day. Okay, now you get a wide shot here because you can see everyone swaying in the background, right? And you get the full shot of the dress. Okay, so now you got a nice wide perspective of what's going on in the background, which is kind of nice. So then we just move right down the line here. We don't want this video to get dinged, but I really want to show you how it sounded and how it looked. So by being freehand, again, you can do these kind of different cool angles. So I would always sometimes tilt the camera and add some interest and perspective to it. And I thought this was kind of a cool idea back in the day. For me anyway, you know, this is just how I shot. This is my style. Everybody has their own style, and that's really cool because, you know, everybody has their own perspective on how they do video, and people hire you based on, you know, what your style and technique is. But based on my experience, this is what I did, and I got tons of work without even advertising. So, and I still get calls even today. It's sad. I keep getting calls, but, you know, older clients, their daughters are getting married. How sad is that for me, right? So that's the deal. That's what happens. Okay, so, you know, the video would end. So let's get down here. Let's just roll this down. This will be a little bit longer because if you really want to see the host, so stick with me. You'll see a lot of different cake cuttings. You'll see fun dancing. You know, you'll see all this kind of cool stuff. So they were singing to We Are Family, and that's what they did. And if you can see what I'm moving around here, as you can see that I'm just, you know, I'm actually fluid. So I'm actually getting everybody dancing, and they're not really bothered by me. You know, listen, the light's on. You're there to do a job, right? So let's move this around. But you can see it, you know, back in this time, and this is 2005, so it was 5 years ago. So technology was just changed quite a bit, but it was still a good quality 3-chip broadcast Canon camera. And I'll leave descriptions below what I used to use for Rig and comparable things today, so you can, you know, if you want to start your own video business. And so this is kind of cool. So I was able to move around the dance floor, get close-ups. So it's not just this one shot. So you get a multiple 360 look at this wedding. So it's not just standing in one corner or on a tripod and just getting one angle. And that can get kind of boring after about 10 seconds. So if something's happening over here, so you want to be able to pivot and move. So the idea behind event videography for me was to be able to capture what's going on, what's happening, and as fluid as possible, and so you don't miss a beat. You know, just like a photographer. See, she's moving around. She's fluid. See, that's the difference. So that's kind of how a video has to be. You have to be moving around. You have to be fluid. You have to be able to capture, you know, things unfolding because you don't want to miss the cool shots. You know, I use a monopod, and I would pick the camera high overhead and really get a cool shot. You know, tilt the monitor back and just. And this is just cool kind of stuff. You know, people just love this kind of stuff. People love to be in video. Once they get a few drinks in them and get going, you are not bothering them. Believe me. I mean, back in the day, we used to use 1,000-watt lights, and that was a problem, okay? So running a 20-watt light is not going to bother anybody. And you can control that because we use a dimmable light. Okay, so let's get down. So you get the idea, right? So everything is kind of like, you know, free-flowing, freehand, monopod, handheld, whatever. You know, keep it fun, keep it light. You know, you're there to have a good time as well. So if you have any questions or comments below so far, let me know. Tell me what you think about this video. I know it's a little bit old school, but, you know, this is how I did it. And people were happy. Like I said, I mean, I still get compliments even today, you know, back in the day, that people really enjoyed what I did. And the idea is really, when you're doing motions, when you're moving with the camera, you know, try to go as slow as possible, but actual fluid as possible. Think of yourself as a boom. Think of yourself as the camera and you as one, and you kind of, everything's almost with a sweeping motion. Nothing is jogs. Nothing is, you know, really abrupt at all. All right, let's move this down here so you get the idea what's going on here. Okay, so this is during the speeches. So I had a shotgun microphone on my camera.
of honor. I want to start off by thanking Shelly and Justin for asking us to be a part of this special day. I also want to thank Shelly's parents.
Okay, so you can see. So we typically call this, I always try to get them to do it behind the bride and groom if possible. Sometimes they always don't. It's very fluid. It's very difficult sometimes. You really, so either have them stand behind the bride and groom or next to them and try to get them included in the shot to get the reactions. Or if you're doing a multi-camera shoot, you can do the same thing. It really depends on how you want to do it, but this is how I did it. And you can see the light's really not bothering me. If you got a decent quality camera, you can balance the light pretty well. Then we turn the lights down and then you get the issues. But right now the lights are still up. Alright, so then you got the usher, the best man. And you can see the audio's not, again, this is not plugged into the DJ. This is just good quality audio out of the camera with a good shotgun microphone.
Justin, you're my younger, less handsome brother.
So I do get that you plug in the audio into the DJ's thing, and you can use some of this, and I get that. That's cool, and that really works well, and I think that's a good idea personally. So you can plug those, audio, drop those audios right into those speeches, and that's really what only time I would use that. I didn't do that, but that's what you could do. But it worked out for me.
Being his younger brother, I'm sure it was a big pain in the butt to him.
But you can see the audio is really clean. So if you get decent equipment, you can get clean audio. And this is not plugged in. This is just right off the camera. And let's get into some other things. So I hope you get the idea so far. So a lot of times with my style, I would always get the bride and groom going around, just get some candid stuff. Again, this is a little old school. I know today everyone's doing the film style, and documentary is not so much in the forefront, but it's important to really get a little bit of some of the guests and just an overall view of what's going on. And you can do this or not do this. It's really totally up to you. This is what I did. Because I want the bride to look at the video and say, oh yeah, all that. I did go around the tables. Oh yes, I did talk to a few people. So the idea is to really relive the moment to bring the value of what you're doing. Because if everything always looks like a Hollywood movie, it kind of removes them a little bit. It's not reality. You know what I'm saying? So this is more reality. This is like, this is really what's going on with the bridesmaids. This is what's going on with the ushers. And they'll love this forever. And they have some dancing and some candid shots, and again, more just table shots. Again, this is what I did. You don't have to do it. I know you probably won't, but I'm just showing you what I did. And let's get down to it. So the table shots, and let's see what else we got. So here's the cake cutting. I don't know if that's the cake cutting or just some shots of the cake cutting. It's a little bit too fast, I think. Let's see what we got here. No, just some dancing, yeah. I just used the cake as a transition piece. Okay, so let's move down here. So as you can see, I'm pretty much on the dance floor most of the time. Make sure I'm in the shot, not in the shot, make sure I'm getting the shots. I'm not from a distance. Two things this does. It gives you a really clean audio if anyone's kind of talking, and also it gives you a perspective that you're actually in the shot versus far away. So that's the difference. So which is kind of nice, And people like being on camera, believe it or not, they really do. Give them a few drinks and they're partying. There's a lot of cool shots here, so don't be afraid to interact with your bride and groom. Don't be afraid to interact with even the guests. If there's any little kids and you want to talk, never be afraid. Let's see where we're at here. So hopefully this is not too long so far, but I really wanted to give you an idea. See here, so you got it could be a grandmother dancing that is possibly no longer living, and that's something that's precious to live with that forever. And if you cut all this stuff out, and then it's just like a lot of the meaning of the video. You're focusing on the bride and groom so much, and you're so focused on making, a Hollywood production that you miss, the humanity, let's call it, into it, right? So this is the guests and the family and all that kind of stuff. And this is something that I try to focus on. Any fun with the photographer would, pop everybody together. Boom, you hop over there. You don't have to worry about it. You're on a monopod. You're handheld. You can run right over and get a shot. I was always looking around to see what was going on. If I wasn't, I would step in the back and scan the room constantly. You know what I mean? always, because you're always on, you know that. You're always on, you're always working, and you want to just make sure you get everything. So here's the cake cutting. A typical cake cutting would be, again, everything was shot with one camera. And you can see here, it's well lit. And they would feed each other. And everything's very civil today. Back in the day when I first started, and some wild weddings that I've done, and they would literally throw cake in everyone's face. It was nuts. Everything here is very civil today. Everything is with forks and knives and very civil. So I use this as a transition shot here to use the cake. So this is the father-daughter dance. Again, some nice close-ups. You can see it's really nice, you know. You're not far away. You can get the perspective. And you can capture the emotion. I mean, you can actually see the bride crying. So, you know, that to me, I mean, if they cry, they tell their friends. So, you know, the camera was hunting a little bit, and I did use the autofocus because I was so busy working on everything else in the background, working on the audio, looking around, checking video, checking levels. So this is really, really nice. You can see the perspective of this. So the father was crying, the daughter was crying. Now this emotion here, you can't, right? If you're too far away, you're not going to get this, and it's impossible to really get the emotion like this. So this here video is very, very powerful. I hope it comes across that way so you can see by being close that you can really, you know, and you're not on top of them. I'm probably 6 feet away, you know, so but close enough to really, you know, get that zoom in and really work on that. You just can't buy that kind of shot. And the light's still well balanced, even though it's a little darker in there, you can see that, but you can see the purple in the background is not really affecting the video because I'm close enough that the light's really kind of compensating and making it and balancing it quite well. And I did do some color balancing back at the studio. Everyone's crying. I hope you're not crying at home. If you're crying, that means you like the video. Okay, excellent. So let's get to that. So you can see how it kind of flowed, and I follow them. So it's a follow through. I follow through with the shot and then follow them because they always go over. There's a lot of, you know, just think about what's happening next. Okay, where are they going? What are they doing? And then you got the mother and the son. So this is a nice shot. Here we go, and you can just see that. So not as much emotion. Everybody has their own thing, which is kind of different, but everyone's different. And she was crying a little bit. You know, and you can kind of tap them on the shoulder if you want to, if you're brave enough to go up and say, hey, take a look at me, if they're not looking at you. But you can do that, and I've done that in the past, depending on how much they hide themselves and so forth. Okay, so that was that. So any questions or any comments at all, please let me know. If you like this little segment whatsoever, please let me know. It was just a little idea of just give you, you know, what I did and what I do and the idea of how I shot my reception. So any questions, like I said, leave below. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing more videos like this so you can see, you know, what I do and how I do things, how I edit. If you have any questions on tech, you know, as far as technology, you can feel free to ask me. If you have any questions on editing style or how you shoot, that'd be great. Also, take the survey. I have a survey on top of the screen here. You can see if you click on the little question mark. It's do you like to shoot or film video, or do you like to edit video? So there's a little poll I'm taking just to see what people like and what they do. I do appreciate it. I'm glad you tuned in for this episode. Hope you learned something. This is all part of my master class and learning about. I have 35 years of experience shooting event videography, and so I'm trying to just show you my style and my technique back in the day, how I did my thing. So again, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. It does help me out quite a bit. I do appreciate that. And you make it a good day, and I'll see you at the next episode.